Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Aries, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of December 2024. I hope you are well. We're using the Night Sun Tarot for you today. Before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That is via the first link in the description box. But let us not dally. Let's see what's going on with you. I feel quite an urgency this month, interestingly enough. And like you're moving into the home stretch. In so much as the North Node is finishing up in your sign. That, I think, towards the end of January is going to provide some relief because it's going to click over into the sign of Pisces and it's going to take some of the pressure off you. And the last 18 months have been pretty pressured. So we like that. The relief, that is, not the pressure. So let's see what's going on with you. Can I have 3 cards for Aries, please? Oh, it slid out. There we are. Look at that. It's an Aries card. Sun in Aries, 3 of Wands. What about current energy, please, for Aries? Where is Aries right now? Where's Aries right now? There we go. We have the Queen of Cups. Interesting. And what's coming towards Aries for December, please? Oh, now that's really interesting. I was going to make the observation that there haven't really been any major arcana cards showing up for December generally for people. And, one might surmise from that actually it's going to be a relatively quiet month compared to the rest of the months that we've had this year. But there you are, Aries, buck in the mould. We've got Judgment coming up for December for you, with the 2 of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. Now, if you've seen any of my readings before, and I've used the Night Sun quite a lot this year because there's been so much instability, there's been so much change. This particular card is one that's come up a lot. And in other decks, it says to me coping. That's what it's talking about, right? It's how we manage our resources. It's how we manage our responsibilities and our duties as offset against the things that we actually want to invest in. Maybe more of the fun side of life, that sort of thing. And it is the card that varies the most between all of the decks that I have, which is actually at this point an obscene amount of decks. Not that I know where any of them are. They're still packed in boxes somewhere, spread out all over the shop. Because sometimes this card depicts somebody who is coping but just, right? There's a stricken look on their face and they're like, ooh, they're in a, quite a perilous situation. In others, we've got people pulling off gymnastic feats and looking really, really pleased with themselves about it. It just depends on the deck that you get as to how the artist has interpreted that particular energy. This one here is getting ready for takeoff. It's getting ready for some sort of big movement, big expansion. I love the fact that Fabio Lustrani has put the pentacles underneath the feet, right, making it look a little bit like a surfboard. And even the position that this character is holding is like, I'm ready for the incoming wave. I'm waiting for it. Just ignore my dog video bumming in the background there. And when we combine that with the energy that we see both here and here, it's not just that there's movement going on right now, it's that there's more movement to come. And everything that you're doing is in preparation for that. I mean, this is Jupiter in Capricorn, right? So we've got the energies of Jupiter expanding things. But with Capricorn, there's a bit more of a long-term view as to what that will look like than necessarily we might associate with the sign of Aries, right? Which has got a certain immediacy to it. So let's get some clarifiers out on the table. Actually, let's give these a proper shuffle. We'll get some clarifiers out on the table and we'll break this down a little bit because I think with the amount of instability that is around at the moment, I feel like for a lot of signs, the pressure is, of external forces is being reduced so that the internal forces get a chance to reorder themselves. But you seem to have been not just will be in December, but there seems to be a process that's happening now and has been happening up until this point of reordering the things within one's foundation, ready for that kind of movement moving forward. So tell me about the 3 of Wands, please. We have 10 of Cups, Whoa. Oh, good Lord. We've got the World and the Fool, and we've got the Six of Cups. Now, that's quite an interesting combination of cards. We'll put those there. We're going to move these over a little bit because I wasn't expecting Fool cards to come out there. But we'll break that down in a second. Tell me about the Queen of Cups, please. Why is this here? Thank you. 3 for this one as well. There's a lot of things going on underneath the surface with you, Aries. We have the 5 of Cups, we have the 3 of Wands, and we have the Star card. And then finally for the Judgment card, what's going on here, please? 7 of Wands in reverse. Interesting, because that's Mars in Leo, that card. And Mars is your ruling planet, and it's currently in the sign of Leo, and it shall be retrograding into the sign of Cancer. Oh, that's quite funny. Okay, let's get one more card for the Judgment card. Well, okay, we're going with 2. Oh, 4? What the fuck? Right, okay. Ooh, interesting. We have the Queen of Swords, and we have the 2 of Cups, and then the Ace of Swords at the bottom of the deck. Now, who else was it? Was it Leo, who also had an Ace of Swords showing up somewhere? I think it might have been. All right, while I reorder these cards so they're not quite as obnoxious on the table and we can see what's going on, let's start talking about what's going, the bigger picture of what's going on here. We'll get into the detail of it all in a moment, but first I want to focus a little on the bigger picture because I feel like you are focusing on the bigger picture. And so I want to offer you some level of confirmation as to what you're experiencing and why before we move any further. You are very much, at the moment, sort of stuck between 2 places, and those 2 places are represented by the World and the Fool. Now, you'll notice that these energies are present, but they're not showing up in the upright, which is eventually where we want them to go. And I do think that we'll probably see in January more of that upright sort of energy. But for now, it is simply present, whilst there is something that is being worked out here. Now, I'm going to bring Leo up again here because Leo is your sister fire sign, right? And so whenever anything's going on with one sign, elementally, there may well be an aspect that is going on with the others, right? So Aries, Sagittarius. I haven't done Sagittarius yet, so I can't see a broader kind of pattern that's emerging between the 3. But we do know that Mars is in retrograde this month, 6th of December. It's been in shadow for a while now, I think since the 6th of October. I mean, Mars retrograde is a long transit. It only happens every 2 years or so. And we are also currently in a Mercury retrograde. Now, clearly, whenever there's retrograde motion of planets, particularly when they're personal planets, so Mercury, Mars, Venus, etc., etc., it's very unlikely that we have the kind of forceful forward movement that we would like as fire signs. In your case, I don't think that that's bothering you quite as much as it could be because of this card here, which seems to be somewhat of an anchor for you in terms of a longer plan that you're working to here. Like I said, quite unusual for Aries in that respect. But the retrograde energy of the planets offers us an opportunity to go back, revisit, reevaluate, reconsider plans, actions, thought processes, everything, right? Particularly that blend of Mars and Mercury there together. And I think that although we might all be more comfortable if we were simply following a path, what's happening here is there's an opportunity for you to be able to revisit what is significant and important for you in an emotional way. And I have to say, like, Leo's was much more emotional than you are, but mind you, most of that emotional stuff came out in the extended, so let's not judge too harshly with here. But right, it's this liminal place between the end of an old cycle and the beginning of a new one. In fact, we're not quite even at that liminal place yet. We're sort of in the liminal place beforehand. And I kind of feel that often it depends on your perspective as to whether you're at the end or the beginning of something, right? It's very easy to feel like you're just choked up in endings and endings and endings when you're right in the middle of that. And it's only when you look back at it later on you can see that actually a number of things were beginning there. You just didn't have the ability to be able to see it just yet. So we've got endings with the Ten of Cups, we've got endings with the World card, but we have beginnings here with the Fool, and then we have the past with the Six of Cups. And all of this coming under the Three of Wands, which is for me a low level card of manifestation. This is saying like it's low level because it's of the minor arcana, right? So it's in your hands, it's your ability to be able to do something with this. It's very much about movement forwards. It's Sun in Aries, which is an exalted position, right? The Sun is in its home in Leo, but in Aries, it's like I'm doing my best work here, right? Absolutely best work. And usually that would be about the things that you are actually doing. But it feels to me like there's something quite introverted going on here, in so much as the Three of Wands is more, it's not the consideration of what you will do. It's more like there's little things that you are doing that are not just taking you to a destination, right? Something that you're trying to plan to do. But it feels like you're ironing out the wrinkles of you and what you're about. What do I mean by that, right? Well, we've got we've got the Ten of Cups here. That's the happy family. It's the collective. It's the community. It's everybody coming together, right? But it is also simultaneously an end to a particular way of things being, right? An end to a community, an end to particular kinds of familial relations. I've seen enough on social media to know that there's been quite a bit of that going on, certainly in the States at the moment. But it can also represent friendship groups and things like that, right? So whilst the Ten of Cups is ultimately what the Ace of Cups is wanting to turn into, the way that it's, you know, its ultimate goal, its ultimate potential, it is simultaneously the end of that thing and the emergence of something new. So we have this idea of endings and beginnings baked into the Ten of Cups right there. Then we have this major arcana energy, which is sort of coming and sitting over the top of it, and it's saying, hello, I'm here. It's almost time, right? It's almost time for endings. It's almost time for beginnings. Is there anything that is stopping these being fully expressed? And then we get the Six of Cups. And this is why it feels to me like it's about wrinkles being ironed out rather than you forging forwards forcefully as you would like to do. Because the Six of Cups is about children. It's about the past. It's about past lives. It's about soul relationships. We can see all of these things coming together here. And it could be really confusing, except for some reason, Aries, you seem to have your finger on what actually is going on. Now, we could see the Six of Cups as a block to these major arcana energies here. But it doesn't feel like that. It feels more like ironing out the wrinkles of the Six of Cups in order that you can allow these to turn the right way up, right? To give the kind of energy that we would expect from the beginning and the end of a cycle. Where's that? Oh, I'll get this deck over here because I just want to dig into the Six of Cups a little bit more. Generally, the energy of the Six of Cups is about going backwards, right? So we could see a way of there being a kind of learning from mistakes. That's possible. And we have the Six of Cups. But I think it's really interesting while we're entering a period that is absolutely dominated by retrograde energy, that we should have both a card of kind of going back and a kind of going forwards over here. So tell me about the Six of Cups. Why is this here for? Aries. Well, that drifted onto the floor face down, so I have absolutely no idea what it is. Let's have a look. Ooh, Ten of Pentacles reversed. One more card for... Right. The Ten of Pentacles reversed is always about instability. There's just... It can't be anything other than instability, because in the upright it is about things being stable and secure and reliable and something that you can really lean on, right? Again, it's another card that talks of the happy family, potentially, but it's also about your resources, it's about your assets, it's about your money, it's about your time, attention, care, love, all of these things. Let's just put that High Priestess down there. It can be about the family unit. It can be about a business. It can be about anything that has a kind of structure to it. Now, that's quite interesting because Leo also had that same card, right? With Leo, it was more about having the courage to rock the boat, which at this point it seemed like that they were really, really struggling with. Here, it's somewhat deliberate with you. It's almost it doesn't feel like you're agitating situations, but it does feel like you are testing situations. And like I said, a lot of this testing is kind of happening within. It's like, is this really secure? Is this really stable? Is this really what I want? Is this perhaps an expression of trauma from the past, right? You know, what are the things that have value? And if it doesn't have value, why am I hanging on to it? You notice that this Eight of Cups is showing up here, and it's also sideways. We've got it showing up in the upright over here. And I actually really like the fact that that's sideways, because you have been thinking, and you have been thinking hard. More than that, Aries, you've been feeling. You've been feeling your way around that, and this is why that I think the High Priestess is showing up here. You've been feeling around and accessing a level of intuition that you likely is kind of surprising you a little bit, right? So the actions do not become actions for action's sake, which has always been a bit of an issue for Aries. Instead, it's becoming something more like, well, here's a little bit of action in this way. What does that feel like? How can I break that down to understand what has just occurred in me? Like, there's a wisdom process here that you are exercising, that you have developed for yourself. And this Three of Wands feels like a little test, like, what's this? Okay, we'll come back, see what we think about it. And it feels like the Eight of Cups is here on its side, because this is a process of working out what you need to leave behind, working out what no longer has value, working out what was in the past a representation of what made you feel safe and secure and no longer fulfills that. Right? You know, it's just, well, I'm not about this anymore, I'm about something else. But here's the thing that's really interesting. It does feel incredibly internal. I don't know if you're even talking to people about this, or whether this is some very internalized wisdom process that you're undergoing yourself. And when it's time, you'll make the announcement, right? When it's time, you'll let everybody else know. It's a very different way to the way that you usually work, Aries. And I've spoken to enough Aries over the last 2 or 3 years to know that Aries specifically actually feels a real sense of responsibility for other people around them, right? Such that when something goes down and Aries looks around and sees that nobody is going to do the thing, Aries will step up and do the thing. But a lot of what was happening, not so much last year, but the year before, particularly when you had issues with housing instability, that's Silas in the background there, and all that sort of thing, was you had to stop putting everybody else first. You had to stop picking up yet another responsibility and another duty and another thing that you had to be in charge of, because you had to focus your mind on what you needed and all those kind of things, right? And when it came to it, I think a lot of Aries were distraught to realize that other people would not pick up the slack for them in the same way that they had picked up the slack for everybody else. And it's not because we need everything to be reciprocal all the time, because that's not how life works. And sometimes we're up and sometimes we're down, and, you know, so on and so forth. But I think it changed a lot about the way that you think family and community and maybe even society should work, right? There's an emphasis on sorting your shit out, for sure. And the needs and wants of other people seem to factor a lot less in this than they might have done 2 years ago. Like, Aries is a sign that wants to be autonomous. Beyond everything, it wants to be independent. But I wonder if along the way you kind of conflated that with must do all the things and must be in charge all the time. I think a lot of Aries did that. And the end result was eventually you end up exhausted, completely depleted, and nothing left in reserve at the point where the tower was kicking you and you needed something in reserve. The tower over the last couple of years has really broken Aries down into some very small component parts, and what certainly this in 2024, I do feel like Aries has been putting themselves back together, comprising now of things that they actually want to be in there within them, rather than things that they are kind of emotionally reacting to. And what this has done is given you a level of wisdom that you did not have before. No disrespect, Aries, but like it was not there before. This is the way that personal growth works, right? We all hope that we would end up having something at our disposal that we did not have before. And with you, it's a really finely tuned sense of intuition. But interestingly, it doesn't have that, I must have everything now, I must do everything now, I must collect responsibilities and duties. Actually, I can plan a little bit further ahead. And whilst I'm waiting for the arrow that I've let fly or the stone that I've skimmed across the lake to come to some sort of halt, making contact with the result that I want, I'm going to make sure that I'm ironing out all of the little creases that were stopping me from getting there, right, from progressing in some sort of way. I mean, this is top tier stuff, Aries. I am really impressed with this. So when we come to your current energy, we have the Queen of Cups. Now that is very interesting. It's Cancer energy. And I said Mars in Leo over here is going to retrograde back into the Queen of Cups energy, right? Cancer energy. And that probably is going to suck for most people, because although Mars has been in the sign of Leo and it quite likes being in fire signs, that feels good to Mars, he's been slowing down for a while. And if it's one thing that Mars hates, it's going slow. If it's one thing that it hates more than that, it's going backwards. And the ultimate not like is Mars going backwards into a water sign. That's a full ew, that one. However, we must trust that it's for our highest good and all that kind of thing. Certainly around 2022, I saw the Mars retrograde being a source of deep frustration for Aries. I think one person in the comments around about that time, I remember the comment distinctly, said that it was like being a Formula One racing car that's been put up on bricks. So like you can rev the engine and you want to go really fast, you can go really fast, but there's no point of contact with the ground, right? There's no fucking movement happening at all. And that isn't what's happening here. Even though there are frustrations that are associated with Mars slowing down, Mars going retrograde, Mars going into a water sign, you feel to me like you're taking it in your stride in a way that you never have done before, and that you are fully embracing what the retrograde energy brings to you so that you can move forward strongly, powerfully, and not fight it every step of the way. Like this is what's been let go already. Like, and Mars is the god of war, right? What Aries does really well is be a warrior. And what this is not saying is that you're turning into a more Venusian character, right? Oh, I just want peace and harmony and all that kind of thing, right? Because that would be pretty dull, let's face it. But it does mean that you're becoming more of an emperor. The warrior in the garden. You want to think about how the emperor is depicted. Let me pull him out here, because I know some of you don't have tarot cards. Some of you may not have noticed these details before. Just incidentally, I really would recommend, actually, if you want some help in sorting out your mind, your emotions, exploring all of this kind of thing, tarot cards are an excellent way to do it. And you really don't need to be a top tier tarot reader to be able to get something really meaningful out of it, out of the story that it tells you, right? So here we've got the Emperor, right? And he's in all of his finery. There we go, there. But notice he's got his armour underneath. Now, in this moment, he's being a leader, right? But he's leading from wherever he is on his throne and all that kind of thing, right? He's becoming a master tactician. He's becoming a master strategist. He doesn't need to be at the front doing the fighting, swinging the sword. He needs to be able to be a little bit more circumspect, stand back, and take lots and lots of things into account. It's really important that the Emperor is not hot-headed and reactionary, which is a couple of phrases that one would associate with Aries in the past. But if necessary, he still has his armour on underneath. What we're doing is blending the best of both worlds here. So the need for you to move fast seems to have been removed. The need for you to be reactionary seems to have been removed. Instead, you're choosing to work with and embrace the retrograde energy, to see what it can bring you, to see what it throws up in you, right? So here we have the Five of Cups, the Three of Wands, and the Star. And what we've got is you walking very compassionately towards what it is that feels emotionally stuck in you, right? And maybe emotionally stuck is the wrong way to describe what this is. Maybe this is more of an emotional wrinkle. Right. Leo's reading was very much based around fear, right? And the fear of kind of, like I said, rocking the boat and knocking down what they had built. You seem to be testing it, just knocking a little bit here and a little bit there. Like you're going around and tapping on the walls. You're looking for the hollow bits so that you can fill them in. This is very, very wise shit, right? And so the Five of Cups representing loss or a fear of loss. And so we're kind of back to the instability of fear-driven emotions, right? You're marching straight towards that and being like, right, what do I need to turf out of my emotional space? What is not going to serve me moving forwards, right? Because I am moving forwards, even if I appear to be moving backwards, even if I appear to be doing nothing, I am actually getting everything in place the way that I need to be, because I want to go here to the Star. Now, the Star represents the sign of Aquarius, and obviously Aquarius has been getting quite a lot of press recently, what with Pluto moving into that sign. But Aquarius represents lots of other things too. It represents the future. It represents, did I say Aquarius represents these? The Star. I mean, Aquarius sort of represents these things as well, right? But the Star represents the future. It represents vulnerability. It represents deep emotional healing. But it also represents our highest goals, hopes, dreams and aspirations. Quite simply, it represents where we want to go and how we want to experience the process of getting there, right? The Queen of Cups is an oddly emotional and feminine archetype to be coming up to express where you are right now. But if you are being kind to yourself, if you are being curious rather than reactionary, if you are forgiving whatever it is that you're seeing coming up within you, and possibly to an extent with other people as well, then not only are you growing as a person, but like I said, you're pulling in all of the aspects of all of the elements to help you become a better strategist, to help you, for the want of a better phrase, right, boss life rather than fight it. It's like, how can I embrace all of this? How can I work with it? How can I find the truth of everything and change my mindset so that I'm not having to fight all the time? The warrior in the garden, right? It's better to be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the war and all that kind of thing. One must have experience of both things and have a high sense of discernment about, that was the Queen of Swords I was pointing to there, by the way. When is the right time to have the discernment to know which is which, right? Which is the right situation for which kind of approach. Aries, this is amazing. Like, seriously, I'm really, really impressed with what I'm seeing here. Because as we move into December, we have the Judgment card. Now, the Judgment can speak to, retrograde energy. Because there is that kind of resurrection quality to the judgment card, right? We've got an end of days judgment, things being brought up, full judgment, did you pass muster, all that kind of thing. And so we could have some shades of old situations that are coming up, asking you to close them out properly in a way that maybe you didn't close them out before. So that could involve breaking bread with people that you've fallen out with. It could involve walking away from people who you've been trying to, keep on board, recognizing that they're not part of your path moving forwards. But more often than not, when the judgment card shows up, it speaks to some sort of big life-changing decision that is going to be undertaken during this time period, right? It's quite literally the exercise of your judgment. Now, there are 3 cards, and they are Judgment, Justice, and the Wheel of Fortune. Now, whenever they show up, there's something kind of big going on in somebody's life. When they start showing up together, 2 of the 3 would be sufficient. Then we really know that things are kicking up a notch. Not there yet, but that's okay, because it's all been about the preparation. I think for you, for December, what we've got, and I know this is a strange thing to say in a Mercury retrograde, what we've got is a degree of clarity starting to come in about the way that you want your life to go, right? We could be having clarity about the star, that's possible, but clarity about the star in each of the ways that it shows up. So clarity about the future, clarity about one's own healing, clarity about vulnerability and the strength in vulnerability, and authenticity as well. Let's throw that in there as well. Although, to be fair, like the Mercury retrograde, actually, Mercury stations direct on the 15th of December, if I remember rightly. Now, it could well be that the second 2 weeks of the month, as it enters, it goes into its shadow phase, ready to kind of break free of where it was, that actually there's a great deal of things that are now starting to make sense to you because you utilised the retrograde energy properly, really thought about things, really reevaluated things, really ironed out any crinkles that were present in the emotional space. And you're really very clear about what is not coming with you. Now, notice that I'm saying not who is not coming with you or what situations are not coming with you, because I really do feel like it's very, very internal. I'm going to say that again here. So, anything that represents fear or loss or strife or emotional instability for you, like that's getting left behind. Anything that represents the past in a way that's been very difficult to let go of, I do think you're letting go of that this month here too. Because we can say what we were going to, what I did say about Mars in Leo and the retrograde and all this kind of thing here with the 7 of Wands. But this is putting down the defenses, knowing that they are not necessary, right? We're not fighting for the sake of fighting. We're not taking action for the sake of taking action. It's like we're actually kind of allowing ourselves to bob along because everything is working its way out as it should. And when you're not coming up against it and feeling defensive or confrontational or any of those things, but you can simply observe what is going on within you without judgment, it enables you to start becoming far more discerning when it is time to exercise your judgment. And that's what we've got going on here, right? So I don't need to defend myself. I don't need to protect myself from anything. Like, I am big and I'm strong and I'm looking after myself. I'm doing all of these things. This is brilliant. All of these old things, they're being left behind, right? And it's purposeful. It's really purposeful. This is not an accidental long dark night of the soul for you. This is a very conscious sifting and sorting. Because the closing out of the old cycle and the beginning of the new cycle is too important not to spend the time doing this. And it feels a little bit like you've tamed your ego, Aries. Again, no disrespect, and ego is extremely important for people, right? It's where your survival instinct is rooted. But when your ego is throbbing a little bit too hard, right? Well, we're trying to desperately remain the hero in our own story, where our our base survival instincts are kind of cranked up to 11 in order to preserve this pristine hero archetype for ourselves. We actually end up being very, very fearful, right? Everything is a potential attack. Everything is potentially, gonna dislodge something that we need to stay exactly where it is. And I don't see any of that here with you at all. What I see is a very purposeful internal exploration that doesn't feel attacked, doesn't feel like it needs to protect itself. It doesn't feel like it needs to go on the offensive to protect itself. Instead, is quite happy being authentic, vulnerable, open, approachable, because you know how big you are. I said this Queen of Swords here is really helpful because she is the card of discernment. She is the card of working out what is true and what is not, and that's really important for you. Sometimes when we feel like we're under attack, we're anything but. You don't strike me as having that issue right now. And then we've got the Two of Cups. Now, it could be that the decisions that you're making are in specific regard to some sort of really close, intimate relationship that you have, right? Whether it's a husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. But for me, the Two of Cups is simply about intimacy, right? So we've got the an improvement in your relationships, because you are being much more discerning about who gets to have any of your energy. I do think that there's a possibility that there are people, situations, particularly if you're part of some sort of bigger community, that no longer are in alignment with you and where you want to go. And those are going to fall by the wayside. But the ones that remain, I think you're ready to invest more fully into, because this process of excavation of self that's gone on here, cranking yourself wide open for those who are worthy, is you showing up in a state of readiness to be like, yeah, okay, we're ready to go. This is really, really interesting because it's all going somewhere. None of this is just because the energies dictate this is how you should be spending your time, or your contemplations, your cogitations, right? It's like, I want to get over there. Rather than forcing myself to fight the energies of the universe, fight the energies of the planets, fight all of those kind of things, I'm going to let myself bob here for a moment, and I'm going to use that time to check that there's nothing holding me back or stopping me making contact with those things. This is profound. This is a level up here. And I know it's not the ending and the beginning that you're thinking about, but it's a huge lift in terms of your consciousness, and it might actually represent the start of a new cycle. Like, again, it's really, really difficult to decide whether you're at the end of something or the beginning of something else until there's a bit of space and you can kind of look back and go, well, actually, when that happened, all of these other things happened, it was the start of something. There aren't, crisp, clean lines between ends and beginnings. They bleed. And I think that you're actually further into a new cycle than you give yourself credit for. It might take a little while for the full extent of what you are bringing into focus to really pay dividends. But this kind of level of conscious awareness and conscious work is definitely representative of some sort of increased level of consciousness, right? It's just part of the thing. You've leveled up, Aries, and you didn't even realise that you've done it. And you're not done yet. That's the exciting thing. Right, I'm going to go over to the extended now. So if you would like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Circle. You can do that in Vimeo. I'd be delighted to see you in either place. If that's not your thing, that's absolutely fine. My advice simply to you is to just continue doing what you're doing, because it's next level stuff, and it will pay dividends eventually. Like I said, I don't think you need it to be immediate, which is great. Oh, I can't wait to play extended. Right, I'm going to go. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.